Hey everybody, I'm Francesca Maxime and this is WiseGirl and it's December 28th. We are almost closing out 2016 if you can believe it. And it has been quite a year for a lot of us in many respects, particularly in the UK and in America. We saw some interesting election results and we all will see what the future holds for us. One of the things that I did want to speak with you about today was something that I had a firsthand encounter with this week, which is sort of having a feeling or a thought or an emotion arise in us, or in me in this case, that I really wanted to push away and resist, and I really was being very judgmental about, and also being very judgmental about the person and people that it involved. So, as is often the case when we spend time home for the holidays, certain things trigger us or kind of prick us a little bit. And there are certain things that we can continue to do to be mindful of our own self-interest. But one of the things that I realized was I was becoming very judgmental, and I was also telling myself, oh, you shouldn't be feeling this way. You should be above that. You should be able to move beyond it. But one of the things I've learned in the last year, and I've really sort of taken to heart, is this idea of what we resist persists. So this idea that we are making it worse in a way for ourselves and for the whole situation by somehow trying to be somewhere we aren't. So if we're not, for example, feeling very grateful, if we're not feeling very kind or compassionate, if we're not feeling very open-hearted, or if we're feeling angry and not loving, to really just kind of give ourselves a little space and notice that feeling and just be like, hey, there's that feeling that I always say is the nasty feeling of these emotions that, teachers in school would be like, hey, don't feel this way or don't think that way. Be nice, right? We're always trying to be nice. And yet, having the feeling, being aware of the feeling, being able to kind of notice what that feeling is somatically in our bodies. So, for example, can we sense where we're getting locked up or hot or tight or anything like that? For me, it's real tightness here in my chest and in my heart area, my solar plexus, and also it was a real tightness here in my throat. And I could just sort of notice that I was really being very contracted. And I was able to say, there it is, right? And kind of inquire a little bit about why it is that I wanted to push it away. And the reason I wanted to push away the idea of being judgmental is because I feel like it's an unattractive quality to have. And then I inquired further and I said, well, why is that an unattractive quality to have? And then I said, well, because if you're judgmental, then you're sort of assuming things about people that you don't necessarily know to be true. And, you might be headed off in the wrong direction and really not seeing something clearly for what it actually is. So there's a part of that inquiry that's helpful, and you can keep on going deeper and deeper into that inquiry, whatever it is for you. But the fact that I was able to just sort of sit there and eventually come to the conclusion after a long day of deliberation about the damn thing and just say, well, there it is. I'm being judgmental. I'm not going to condemn myself further. I'm not a terrible person. These are thoughts that I have or emotions I had or triggers that got pricked or whatever it is. And I'm going to hold that kind of inclination in compassion with myself. So it's not so much that I am a bad person for having those thoughts, because I don't think of myself as a bad person anymore, although I used to, for whatever conditioned beliefs that I used to have and how those arose based on my, early childhood and all the stuff that we can get conditioned by over the years, even in society. But that sometimes my actions aren't skillful. So the action would be to be really judgmental and then maybe want to do something that's very reactive and, give the person a piece of my mind or tell them why I think that they're wrong or share all of my deep ideas about it or something like that. And instead, I just sort of was like, yeah, no, I don't think they can really hear me. I don't really think it would be that effective. I don't really know what good it will do. And my commitment to what I'll call non-harming, meaning sort of like the Hippocratic Oath, if you're a doctor, you first do no harm. You want to just sort of tread lightly a little bit, right? So usually if we give something more space and more time to unravel, it loses a little steam and a little sting, and that tightness here or whatever it is kind of can dissipate a little bit. So in this idea of what we resist persists, and what the opposite of that would be, which is sort of accepting everything, being able to hold those feelings and not judge myself about them. Again, judging myself for having judgments about others, and not really, give myself a hard time, and instead just be like, yeah, that's, human nature. You're not a saint. You're not somebody who's out there, that walks on water. On the contrary. On the other hand, that awareness of knowing that I was able to witness myself having those thoughts and feelings, recognize them and accept them, kind of paves the way and holds open some space so that I can sit there and say, now I have a choice. I can either say, really, this person needs a piece of my mind, or they don't, or maybe I need to talk to them at a later time about something. Or I could just sit there and say, you know what, for now, I'm just going to notice this, let it be, and leave it alone. And in that so doing, in the next day or two or whatever, a lot of the tension, if you will, around it has kind of been let go. It's not perfect, and I'm not saying it would be in the snap of a finger, but I didn't further inflict harm by acting on the fact that I was feeling judgmental and wanted to engage in sort of a, activity that might not be so pleasant for the other person. So that being said, if what we resist persists, maybe what we should do is, instead of resisting, try out accepting, even if it's feelings that we have that we feel are like not nice feelings, things that our, third grade teacher would probably say, don't say that or don't do that. Well, we don't have to actually take the action of saying and doing it, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the feeling arise within us and that we don't recognize it in our bodies as it does, as some sort of, tense-filled part of us, that we can just sort of say, hey, there you are, I see you, no big deal, and, not feel like we have to act on it and then go for the jugular and really ruin someone's day. Because nobody likes it when our day gets ruined, even if people do it. And, we don't want to try to do that intentionally to people, because then we feel kind of crappy. Or maybe we feel really powerful and good for a little while, and then it kind of dissipates, and we're like, is that really the right thing to do? That's sort of having a conscience, being virtuous, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of us cling to those kinds of actions, and we say, well, they deserved it, or they should have never done this, or whatever, that kind of retaliation. But resentments breed resentments, and they kind of only hurt the people that hold on to them. So in time, if we can just make, room to accept the fact that, yeah, we have some of these resentments, we have these kind of judgments, we have these ideas, and just let them be, maybe eventually they'll lose a little steam. We can befriend them, notice them, not act on them quite so much, and notice where they're coming from, and continue to inquire ourselves about the origins of that, and then see if there isn't an answer within us that we can't sort of resolve some of the questions that get brought up by that. So that's all I have to say on that for now. Tweet me or find me on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Leave a comment. I love to hear from you. And we'll talk to you soon. Hope you had a good holiday week, or are having a good holiday week.